Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Look, if your screen time report looks basically like a full-time job, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to investigate the invisible economic architecture that is systematically hijacking your brain. We always kind of think of our devices as simple tools, right? But the reality presented in our source material paints a much more complex and, frankly, a much more intentional picture. We're going to break down exactly how these systems are engineered from the ground up to capture your focus, and way more importantly, how you can start to take it back.
I want to start by validating a super common and honestly highly frustrating moment. You literally just open your phone to check the time, or maybe you just want to glance at a single text message, but suddenly it's half an hour later and you're watching a video of a raccoon eating grapes. You have absolutely no memory of how you got there. You are physically present in the room, sure, but cognitively, you are somewhere completely different. Our source material describes this phenomenon perfectly. It feels like a literal glitch in your consciousness. So the absolute most crucial point I want you to internalize right now is that this isn't you just procrastinating, and it definitely isn't a lack of willpower. We really need to stop blaming ourselves for this. What's actually happening is that an incredibly sophisticated system is placing a massive invisible load on your mental resources. Your brain is being actively targeted.
All right, part one, the economics of attention. So app designers are incredibly smart, and they leverage very specific cognitive quirks to keep you hooked. A massive one is the Zeigarnik Effect. This is a totally fascinating psychological phenomenon where your brain basically just refuses to look away from an unfinished task. Evolutionary biology wired us to crave closure. Open loops make us super anxious. Well, the apps completely exploit this ancient hardwiring through the infinite scroll. Because the feed never actually ends, the task of reading the feed is never finished. That ensures your brain gets stuck in this endless loop of anticipation, actively preventing you from feeling like you can just stop and put it down. And honestly, this beautifully illustrates how your feed acts exactly like a digital slot machine. Think about it. When you do a normal everyday task, the reward is predictable. You wash a dish. The dish is clean. Boom, done. But apps are built on a highly engineered variable reward schedule. You never know if the very next post you scroll to will be completely boring or if it's going to trigger a massive microburst of dopamine. Because it is completely unpredictable, you just keep pulling the lever with your thumb to find out.
Have you ever actually wondered why you keep scrolling even when you're just incredibly bored? You aren't actually hooked on the content itself, the videos or the photos. You're hooked on the information gap. The uncertainty itself of what comes next is the exact mechanism designed to trigger those dopamine hits that literally keep your eyes locked on the screen. It's the constant loop of anticipation and letdown rather than the content itself that makes it almost impossible to just walk away.
Moving on to part two. Breaking the prefrontal cortex.
We really need to look at the invisible damage here. This constant stimulation isn't just some harmless distraction. It actually causes severe structural changes in how your brain functions over time. The primary target? Your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that handles planning, decision-making, and task initiation. Under chronic stress and overstimulation from these variable reward schedules we just talked about, your prefrontal cortex gets rapidly depleted. Think about how insanely hard it is to write a basic one-sentence email when this part of your brain is fried. It feels weirdly overwhelming, right? That's simply because the cognitive resources you need to initiate the task just aren't there anymore.
And this totally explains why your cognitive performance measurably drops by like 2 p.m. You transition from normal wakefulness into what genuinely feels like total sleep inertia or just sheer brain deadness, even though you are wide awake. The machinery inside your head is essentially broken from being overtaxed. It's not that you're tired from physical labor. Your focus machinery has just been completely burned out by the app economy.
Listen, if there is literally one single thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this incredibly powerful realization that should immediately relieve you of the guilt you've been carrying. This isn't a motivation problem, it's a system failure. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are operating a brain that has had its systems systematically depleted by digital architecture. Truly recognizing this is the absolute first step toward getting your life back. Which brings us to part 3, the false productivity trap.
Attempting to just fight through this brain fog, it actually pushes us into a brutal, vicious cycle. Let me walk you through exactly how this trap works. Step 1. Your focus crashes because your prefrontal cortex is totally depleted. Step 2. You feel awful about it, so you push yourself even harder to compensate. Step 3. Pushing harder only drains your already depleted resources even faster. And finally, step 4, your nervous system completely panics. You enter a permanent threat response mode. You aren't chasing a real gap in your productivity anymore. You're chasing a gap generated by your nervous system because it has literally started treating every single ping, buzz, and notification as a survival necessity.
Okay, part 4, reclaiming your mental currency.
So how do we actually execute a successful escape plan? Well, first, you gotta stop explaining the story to the apps. What our source material means by this is that you have to stop trying to justify your habits to a digital system. For example, stop trying to set a 15-minute timer on an app that employs thousands of engineers specifically tasked with making you ignore that exact timer. It's a losing battle. These platforms are actively pretending not to understand the psychological harm they're causing you.
So here is your actionable escape plan. Start by really reality testing your habits. Look at what you are actually getting out of the time you just spent. Next, start noticing when you're being deliberately breadcrumbed. Apps are going to offer you just enough attention, just enough dopamine to keep you invested without ever actually moving you forward. Once you see this happening, you can finally recognize your attention for what it actually is, a highly valuable currency. Recognizing that helps you set firm boundaries, like putting your phone in grayscale mode, or creating actual physical separation by leaving the device in a totally different room.
Look, if you've spent years feeling like you just can't get it together, I want you to realize right now that you've simply been navigating a system expertly designed to keep you on your knees. You don't need some magic productivity app to rescue you. Honestly, you don't need to be rescued at all. You just need the room to stand on your own. Once you see the structural issue for what it really is, you inherently have the power to fix your own machinery.
I want you to think about your phone right now. Are you finally ready to stop treating your attention as a currency for someone else to spend? Keep that question in the back of your mind today. And hey, if you want to keep bringing these hidden systems of the world into the light, hit subscribe and join us for the next explainer.